What's your favourite feature added in Endwalker? Because mine might surprise you. It's adventure plates. And it's not because it gave every content creator an endless source of video and stream topics, but because it finally provided players more ways to express themselves, as well as a new type of reward to chase. I think every expansion we get a couple of real banger features or quality of life improvements like this that we can't imagine living without in hindsight, and we begin to forget there was even a time we didn't have it in the first place. Cooldowns resetting on wipe springs to mind when I mention it, something that was so universally appreciated and utterly needed, but when Square Enix released it they were nervous and mentioned that they might need to roll it back if players abused it in some way, shape or form. With Dawntrail on the horizon and set to release a little later this year, I thought it would be fun to hope, or maybe more realistically to cope, about a couple of the little things that I'd love to see included across the 7.x patch cycle. Who knows, maybe if we're lucky, one or two of our picks will end up making it through to actually being implemented, and we'll all get to feel really smart about the fact that we guessed it correctly. Before we get to the features though, this video is sponsored by Sakurako and Tokyo Treats. Sponsors make it possible for me to keep making these videos because everybody needs a little raid food when their HP is dropping. Tokyo Treats is a monthly Japanese pop snack subscription box, including a delicious selection of up to 20 seasonal, exclusive, and limited edition Japanese snacks, and a good old packet of ramen. Sakurako subscriptions come with the same volume of goods, but instead with traditional, authentic, artisan snacks sourced from local Japanese makers, including a lovely, uniquely patterned tableware each and every month. Each month has its own theme, and in this case it's Valentine's Day. Your treats turn up in this beautiful packaging with a nice little booklet to teach you about each and every item within. I got a little too addicted to these chocolate while doing Uwu PF and we got the clear, so I'm not saying it definitely ups your success rate, but it's definitely worth further testing. So if you want to enjoy a little taste of Japan from the comfort of your own home, I would love it if you tried out Tokyo Treats and Sakurako using my exclusive discount code for $5 off your first box. There's a link in the description if you want to try it out. Once again, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the features that I'm hoping for. So this first one definitely falls more on the side of cope rather than hope, but there's one piece of weekly content that I absolutely adore every single patch, because it hits my nostalgia just right, as well as being an outlet to regularly get some pretty appealing rewards or make consistent gil if you aren't interested. It's Unreal, but to me Unreal could be so much more than it is right now. Final Fantasy XIV has a big problem with it being close to impossible to recapture the original, on-content experience with obsolete encounters. Minimum item level and level sync just don't quite get it right, often resulting in a less challenging experience, meaning that you just skip parts that made those fights so great on content. This is especially prevalent with Extreme and Savage, but Ultimate is also a bit of a victim of this as well. While I know this is unrealistic, my real long-term desire is to see all high-end content having an Unreal option as a toggle, in much the same way that you can toggle min item level or unsync. And just like min item level, should you complete a piece of content on Unreal, you would get upscaled loot. Like a lot of upscaled loot. Clear a previous expansion's Extreme Trial on Unreal? Just give a guaranteed mount, crafting material and song. An Ultimate? 2 totems, 3, I don't care. For those wanting to run old content synced, it gives them a choice to make between having a harder time with guaranteed or bonus drops and the current experience which is easier. And for those newer players, streamers and groups that want to enjoy FF14's back catalogues of raids fully, the way they were intended, they can get a much more representative experience with it. But before you say it, I agree. It's an unreasonable demand to just expect everything from FF14's past to immediately just get an Unreal toggle, and it would somewhat butcher the current Patchly Faux Hollows update. Instead, let's think about how Faux Hollows can be expanded to accommodate this. Firstly, on odd patches where there's no new Savage raid tier, we could get an old raid tier upscaled for Unreal with weekly nuts for clearing a specific turn within that tier. Maybe once per expansion we could get an Ultimate too, because my god, it would be so fun to do UCOP with max level abilities and a bit of a DPS check again. Adding these additional golds to chase into the Unreal cycle majorly bolsters what it has to offer, as well as giving us more things to aim towards on a weekly basis that aren't just current raids or tomes. We also saw the newest iteration of the Moogle Tombstone event announced, and it came with a few new additions in the shape of a neat little Mogpendium that tracks goals, both on a weekly basis and on an overall event basis. I love stuff like this, and I'm so glad to see the Mogtome event getting this kind of treatment. Give it to Unreal too, please. Give us weekly, patchly, and whenever you want goals to chase based on the ever-expanding portfolio of Unreal content, which are how you obtain nuts, keeping the current currency's value upheld. Next up, I'd like to see one of my personal little frustrations fixed in a rather simple way. Meld loadouts. Black Mage mains are rising up right now going yes please, but this applies to a lot of different scenarios. Because different jobs share gear pieces as a part of their best in slot fairly regularly with pretty much every update, despite wanting different skill speeds, spell speeds, or stat priorities within that role, it's common to run into a situation where you just have to eat the loss on the melds for some jobs. That's a real shame. Can't we have an equivalent of the glamour plate system for materia, where you can freely slot materia into and out of the plate and then apply it to a gear set? This means that not only can you quickly swap your melds inside a duty without keeping the group waiting, you can also play all of your jobs without feeling that you're missing out on a better experience. Have you ever run into this annoying problem? Your inventory is a bit of a mess because you've been in crafting hell for way too long. Because you have so many various materials that you've collected across the days, weeks, months, or only Heidelin knows how long it's been. A bunch of them got stashed away in a retainer to save on space. And now, at long last, you need them. The only solution to get them is to go to a retainer, take them out, and then put them away again. But haven't other games solved this annoyance already? We should be able to craft from our shared inventory. And by shared inventory, I mean our inventory, saddlebag, retainer inventories, and heck, if you have the correct permissions, your FC chest inventories too. When you open your crafting log and it displays available materials, it should pull the numbers from the combined inventories of each of these, and if you don't have enough on your person but do elsewhere, when you begin the craft it pulls them from that additional bag to use for the craft. Simple but effective. The next quality of life addition I would love to see adds on to the last, and it's also something I've referenced in a more limited format in a previous video. Compounding on the quickly filling inventory issue that I talked about just now. You know what makes this problem a whole mess as well as crafting? Fishing, materia gathering, having a robust collection of dyes. There's probably more, but here are just a couple I've thought of off the top of my head that would be lovely to repurpose into additional currency menus instead of being used in the main inventory. These items are purchased or obtained to be used in bulk, and there are tons of them. People have been asking for a bait bag for years, but I'm thinking a little bigger. All of these currency-esque items could simply just become currencies, with attached menus to ease management of all of them. There is the potential foil that if they become currencies, how will they be tradable or sellable? Well, you could just keep the additional step of having them as an item, and then you get the option to use them to convert them into currency and free up your inventory, while still providing access. Sorted. So for the next one, instead of giving you an explanation, I'm going to give you one single screenshot with no context whatsoever. Not because there's a big discussion to be had, but instead, just to remind Square Enix that, this exists. Achievement hunting is something that has popped off a little in Final Fantasy XIV Spheres recently, thanks in no small part to Cider Spider's recent video series. And it's also something I've casually indulged in at times during the past. Like that one time at the end of Shadowbringers where I went into a fever dream and woke up 3 weeks later with 19 relics completed. But if there's one thing I think would enhance the experience a lot, it's major improvements to the achievement menus and trackers. There were updates made to the achievement menus a little while back, but I would really like to see them go further. I'd love to see trackers attachable to the quest log for specific achievements, in the same way you can track them in Destiny 2 and pop them up at a press of a button. And I'd also like to see some of the analytics and percentage trackers that you can find on various achievement aggregators like LAL Achievements available in-game. Would it be satisfying knowing how many mounts I have percentage-wise from the available ones? Yes. Would it be cool to know how much of a patch or expansion I've completed in terms of content, achievement, and drops? Absolutely. Achievements are a near endless source of things to do for people that are looking for a goal to work towards, and making them more compelling and accessible to both track and chase can be nothing but a good thing for the health of the game going forward. On top of everything I've mentioned so far though, there's one feature that I believe needs sprucing up more than anything else. One feature that is borderline unusable. Have a guess if you want. Pause the video right now and let me know in the comments which feature in the game you think is most in need of an update or 10. And then hit play again, because I'm going to tell you my answer right now. It's the friends list. It takes a year to load, sometimes requires multiple refreshers to even function, sending tells to players on other servers is painful occasionally. The block function doesn't work in order to actually help you avoid interaction with the person you've blocked, because they can still join parties with you in, and there's no warning you're about to join a party with a player on your block list. They can still search and view your in-game location and more. It feels archaic, and like it almost belongs in a different game entirely. And with Final Fantasy XIV's ever-increasing focus on social casual features, bringing one of our main methods of interaction up to speed feels like a necessity. It'd also be nice to integrate it a little more with the adventure plate feature, having something like when you hover over a player name, it just pops up their plate to interact with. Something like that might be pretty nice too. Oh, actually, also, fix portraits. I'm not going to make a section for them, but my gosh, the fact that portraits break every time you change a piece of gear, or even look at the menu the wrong way, kills me. I love the feature, but it really needs some work. Okay, so those are the quality of life features that I'd love to see get some tender loving care sometime in the Dawntrail patch cycle. And I'm totally sure that you guys will agree with some of these, disagree with some, and also have a bunch of ideas that I didn't mention at all. So I'd love to hear from you on them. Also, I'm legally obligated by the YouTube overlords to ask you to like the video if you enjoyed it, and I appreciate it if you do. Thank you so very much. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And once again, thank you so much for the insane support recently. It really does mean a lot. I'll be back next week with another video. Have a good rest of your day.